Alright, what is going on, guys? My name is Logan with West Desert Wheeler, and we are checking out the 2022 Trail Hero Trailbreaker here on my channel. Now, I was able to go out to the event and check everything out as all the drivers went through the courses. However, I did not get quite as much content as I wanted, but I figured I would throw something together for you guys anyway. This is a pretty cool run. We're seeing Steve Nance drop into course number 1 out here on the Trailbreaker, and I actually was able to get my GoPro on board his car, so we're going to be taking a look at some interior shots here in just a second as Steve drops out at gate number 1, which is a huge 45-degree incline with about a 5 to 6 foot drop off the bottom of gate 1. Steve handling it like the pro that he is and making it look easy on the way down. Now, you did see a spicy drop in right at the beginning. That's my buddy John with Mad Cow Racing, and he did a great big wheel stand, but John was able to get it back down on the ground and continue out his course as well. So if you guys don't know what Trailbreaker is, it is one of the coolest events that happens every year here at Sand Hollow during the Trail Hero event. And this is a new course that no one had ever driven before today, and they push the limits of what these drivers are capable of what the current cars are capable of. And because no one has driven them, we don't really know if they're completely possible. So this is like the hardest courses and trails that are possible to do in theory, and then we get to see these drivers go into these courses and attempt them. Now, one thing that's really cool about this event is that these drivers don't get to watch each other drive, so everybody goes into these obstacles blind. They get to pre-walk the courses beforehand and get an idea of where they want to drive. However, they don't get to watch their peers do it, so they have to figure it out for their own. They don't know exactly what worked out for the last guy. They just have to figure it out from the driver's seat and get it done. This whole trail is split up into 3 different courses for Trailbreaker. 15-minute time limit per course, and then there are 3 gates in each course. So you can see Steve here wiggling his tires back and forth as he had dropped into this crack coming out of gate number 2 on course 1, and he's going to make the left-hand turn and drop out. That's actually gate number 3, I apologize. And coming up this steep wall, you can see how flattened out his tire is right there into that rock. There's a ton of force getting pushed into this car to get the front end to come up. He's also quite sideways, and right here it looks like he's just standing on the nose of the car as he's able to bring this front tire up. However, the car is going to start articulating all the way out, and he's going to put it in front wheel drive only and burn that front end around off the rock. Steve has actually won a previous Trailbreaker. I believe he's won 2 of them in the past, so very talented driver here. He also runs a local shop, Sand Hollow Off-Road. So Steve builds some awesome cars. He built the one that he's driving here, and I believe this car is less than a year old at the time of this video. Able to put it together right there, making it look awesome, and he's gonna sandblast himself on the way out of here. He was trying to grab 4-wheel drive from the interior camera, but was unable to do it. As you take a look here, trying to smack that red lever, which will put it back into 4-wheel drive. Currently it's in front only, and he blasts himself pretty good on the way out. As I go over here and congratulate him, he goes ahead and tells us that he thought it was sketchy.
That was sketchy. That was an ugly one.
Which is saying something for a driver like Steve. So here we see part of course 2. I got very little footage of course 2. It started out with a big ugly crack that went up and to the left, and then an ugly drop down into a chute out to the bottom. And then for the 3rd gate, they sent you up this massive side hill on this mountain. You could run the crack, but I don't believe anybody ended up doing that. Everybody came up the side hill like Chris Bass is here on his Portal Sasquatch car, and working his way through gate number 3 with that cool crab across the hill, going to front wheel drive only, and then back to 4-wheel drive, working it back and forth to get the car positioned how he wants and keep the angle that he's after. And then we're going to pop out up top by the American flags, and that is the end of course 2. Again, unfortunately I didn't get much footage on this, but we are able to check out Chris as he crests over the top of course 2. Now course 3 is where things really get turned up, and we saw a lot of awesome action on the way through course number 3. Now Chris was the first driver to even make the first obstacle on course 3. Chris was 4th in line, I believe, so we've seen a few other drivers spend more than 15 minutes just trying to get up this first obstacle. Unfortunately, as Chris crests over the top, he times out right here and is unable to cross over gate number 2 to make more progress. He went ahead and drove out of it just to keep continuing on out of the course. And then further down the line, we had John with Mad Cow Himble again coming up through course number 3 into gate number 1. John saw the line and put his car where it needed to go very quickly. By the time John crests over the top of this hill, I think he has been on course for less than 2 minutes, so very impressive driving here by John. He's in a Jesse Haynes single-seat moon buggy car on portal axles. I believe all of the cars in the competition here had rear steer, so that's kind of a given here. John's on 42-inch BF Goodrich Red Label sticky crawler tires. So very cool. The front tires are filled with water for added traction to help get the weight down low on the front of the car to help pull it up over big ugly obstacles like this. Some other cool things about these cars is that these drivers can actually select front wheel drive only or rear wheel drive only, and you can do forward or reverse in either one of those. John is one of the few drivers that will actually utilize rear wheel drive only and use reverse to manipulate his car around, as we'll see here in a second. Big ugly obstacle. I mean, coming up that far side of that wall, you're about 10 feet straight down just off the passenger side of that car. John in here in this crack trying to get the car over to get that front passenger to bite and grab. Now it slid further down sideways into the crack, but that also gave more traction on that front left tire. Also working that rear steer to help push the car through this crack and just get up and out of here. Even once he's up and over that wall, it's still really tough to get the car worked through here. But due to the awesome driving we saw here, John was able to push through and get it done. So as he crossed through gate 1 right there, now we're going to see him drop into gate 2, which is basically a 6-foot drop straight down with a wall 5 feet across, and then they have to make a 90-degree right-hand corner. Very tricky, difficult obstacle to maneuver. And oh, by the way, if you touch one of those flags, it's a DQ for the event, which means you are unable to win the trail breaker, even though they will let you go on to further courses. So meaning if you bump a gate in course number 1, they'll let you continue on through the courses to give a show to everybody. But as we see John here, he's going to go ahead and turn his rears away from that flag, and he's now in rear wheel drive only, and he's wiggling his front steering to try and get some traction on those rear tires, adding some throttle as well. And eventually he will hook up and that rear end will pull that car right down into the bottom of that crack like we see there. Really cool maneuver. I don't see a lot of drivers do that. I gotta hand it to John for using the full capabilities of his car and not being afraid to use everything in his toolbox. Here we go. This is the defining obstacle of Trail Hero 2022. This is the last wall. We only saw 3 drivers even make it to this obstacle, and John was the first one there. So unfortunately, John had to spend some time doing some excavating, meaning pulling out that rock that his front driver tire is pushed up against right there. With the rock there, it makes it steeper and harder to get through. So John spent a few minutes where that rock actually did end up breaking away and falling off like you see there. And then he was able to sneak his front end through. John gets a little sideways on the way in there, but with the front end rear steer, he's able to level his car back out. And now, even with the chassis only a few feet wide, he still ends up with a rocker panel on each side smashed between these rocks, and it's basically a 10-foot wall off the back of the car from this view, and then a 4-foot wall off the front of the car. So you end up on your chassis really hard. It's very difficult to get your car up and through here. Now, even though John gave it a hell of a shot, he was running low on time, and he was getting his car very bound up off camera, and I believe he just didn't want to break his car in the effort to try. Although he pushed it really hard and gave a hell of a shot on course here. John, the first one to even touch this wall, was a huge accomplishment in itself. So big thumbs up from me. Congratulations, dude. Jeff McKinley was one of 4 drivers to get through the 3rd course first obstacle, although he took an unfortunate rollover going through gate number 2, just proving how difficult even gate number 2 can be. One of the best drivers out there was unfortunately a victim to that 2nd gate. Now, here we see Jesse Haynes on course. Yes, the guy who builds the cars and the portal axles. He is also a world-class driver and probably one of the best drivers in the world, even though he had to struggle quite a bit getting up obstacle number 1 on this course as well, just like everybody else did. It was a real tough one, but it was an awesome gatekeeper to this course where only the best were able to get past it and move on towards the end wall. You see Jesse get his front end up and over here. Now right there, you see those rear shocks extend. Jesse is one of the only cars on the field that actually has hydraulics in the shocks themselves, where he can extend his shocks to full length to make his car stand up as tall as possible. In an obstacle like this, that's a really cool advantage, where I believe Jesse is the only one on course here today that has that ability in his car. He's also got individual brake caliper control on some levers, so he can control where he wants to apply brake. He is normally able to unlock his differentials and spin one outside tire faster than one that he would lock up with a cutting brake. Unfortunately, I believe what I heard is that Jesse's air locker was having malfunction, so he just locked everything up entirely. At this point, Jesse is getting very low on time and needs to get these rear tires up and over this obstacle, even using that hydraulic suspension to try and force the car up off the belly. On this specific obstacle, it's just unable to get this thing clear of the rocks, so he still has to work real hard on his rear steer. His front steering is in a bind as well. He's using front wheel drive only. He's trying to get his car turned with the rear steer, get anything he can to grab some traction and push this cage up through this crack to get his way to the other side. Now I believe at this exact moment Jesse has timed out, and the course marshal here is trying to communicate that with him, although Jesse's car is quite loud, and whether he wanted to stop or not is up for debate. Personally, I think he just wanted to put on a show and prove that he could do it. At this point, there's no point in going any further. He would not be the Trailbreaker winner if he did complete it anyway. So again, full 50 degrees of steering in the rear there, trying to push just everything he's got. Front end's in the trap, bouncing back and forth. Now he's going to make a correction on the rear steer here in a second, working the front steering as well, just fighting this obstacle. Here's where things get ugly. That left rear tire starts getting trapped in this crack, and he tries to power through. Watch the right rear as it rotates, but the left doesn't. Boom! There it goes. Unfortunately, Jesse grenades a few parts in his axles on both the front left and the rear left, and I believe he said he broke a spindle on the portal there. And Jesse's car is very powerful, and with all the gearing reduction, they're able to send a crazy amount of torque to those wheels and tires, and unfortunately sometimes if you bind one all the way up, something's got to give. All right, guys, here we are. The last driver on course, Dave Wong, has the last opportunity to get through the last obstacle. Dave had to fight through gate number 1 just like everybody else did. Took him a few minutes, but was able to get up and through there. Now he's working into this last wall, the third driver to even touch this wall. Here we go, Dave Wong with one of the most modern Jesse Haynes cars out there. I believe this car was finished in 2021, I think, maybe 2020. 4-link front end. Dave getting spicy and trying to bump his way up into that crack, which is quite a wild move. These cars are stood up almost completely vertically. As you can see, his front right tire hovering in the air there. Dave having to take a slight reverse to settle it back down. Maybe trying to find some angles or reset himself different with that rear steer movement there. At this point, no driver has made it beyond this obstacle. If Dave can get up and through this crack, he will become the 2022 Trailbreaker winner. He's got the car, he's got the tires, he's got the experience. Dave is definitely a fantastic driver. Super crawl, wee rock, been through many competitions and come out on the podium many times. And not only that, Dave is just an overall awesome dude to spend a day out on the trails with. I've got some other videos featuring he and his car on my channel, out running through Sand Hollow obstacles. Here we go, getting lined up good. Got a little bit of an angle to help that car reach just a little bit taller. And now he's gonna grab front wheel drive only, and that's gonna pull the front of the car up and through this obstacle. He's gonna slap it into 4-wheel drive right there. Gonna get the drive from the rear tires, and his front end sinks down over the obstacle. Dave's slightly off to the right side. The car bellies out, those rear tires start to push, turns it back into the wall. Just looking for that traction to try and make it. At this point, Dave's the only one left on course. The crowd goes wild as his rears come up. All eyes are on Dave. Last one on course to have the opportunity to even attempt this. Now his front end is stuck with his rears balanced in the crack. Cannot lose traction here. Does not want to fall in. You don't want to end up sideways. Tires fighting for traction. Breaks the front end loose, and Dave crosses the finish line as the only driver to complete the 2022 Trail Breaker. Congrats, Dave Wong. It was an awesome show. Thanks so much for coming out and showing these boys how it was done. 2022 Trail Breaker was epic, and you could not script a better ending to this. So, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy the content. Drop a comment down below. Be sure to congratulate Dave on his win. It was well earned and is not easy to do. We will see you guys in the next one. Keep the rubber side down.